This is Fusebox number 242, Truth Fudge. And you are playing fast and loose with the facts.
Oh, indeed. You know, sometimes the actual truth can just bite you square in the... Well, greetings, friends, and welcome in to this, the 242nd edition of Fusebox, appetizingly entitled Truth Fudge.
Yeah, now I'm getting hungry.
Now, does have that effect on one, doesn't it? More about that title in a bit. I'm your hiking in the canyons of your mind host, Mark Rose, and over there, absolutely positively licking the spatula clean of any audio residue is the Baron of bi-amplification, Milt Keynes, everybody.
Well, thank you kindly. Are we doing a cooking show, or...
Well, that's the beauty of this silly language, Mr. Keynes. The word fudge, of course, can mean a delectable treat, but it can also mean to alter or pervert something.
Gotcha. Are we perverting the very fudge themselves?
Well, no, thankfully. But there are a few out there, particularly down there, in that area down there, that have taken the stance of late to obliterate facts and just redesign the truth to fit their own political and questionable moral position.
Really? Well, I can't imagine anyone who would do that.
You know, it must be wonderfully peaceful in your world, Mr. Keynes. We'll explore that coming up because, well, it's a thing of late, and its influence is creeping ever forward, it would appear.
Like some kind of rash.
Truer words have never been spoken, Mr. Keynes. We also have a hot wire of science segment that is most interesting, to say the least.
Giant 600-foot tall lizard found in Tokyo?
Not as yet, Mr. Keynes, but as you know, I keep the fires of hope burning for such an event.
I do, in fact, know that about you.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of, for you Gojira fans, surely you must be aware of the most recent release out of Toho Studios, Godzilla -1, written, directed, and visual effects supervised by Takashi Yamazaki. This guy, in case you don't follow as obsessively as some of us,
like you,
guilty as charged, Mr. Keynes. Mr. Yamazaki is a highly regarded filmmaker in Japan and is renowned for making blockbusters like The Great War of Archimedes from 2019, among a host of other things. He's even designed theme park attractions and video games. I mean, this guy's all over it. So the critical acclaim for this one is already worldwide. There are 2 versions of it as well, a color version and a black and white version that was shot more in a kind of documentary style.
Well, have you seen this then?
No, not yet. I'm dying to see it. It did play for a very limited release at the end of the year in Portland, and reactions were, as I suspected they would be, downright giddy.
You know, I don't know what it is, but I never found the on-ramp to that guy in a suit thing.
Well, it's an acquired taste, I guess. I mean, for many.
Yeah.
I will say that the way they handle it these days is really, it's quite remarkable. I mean, they combine the traditional kaiju idea, that of a person in a suit, you know, with CGI to give you something quite striking. You know, gone are the squishy rubber toes and so forth. That's
you know, the other night, what was that thing called you showed me? I'm sorry. screened for me. It was some Asian thing with a martial arts kind of...
Oh yeah, yeah. That was the story of Riki.
Yeah. I mean, that thing was insane, bro.
Yeah. Well, in Hong Kong, they don't fool around with what's maybe possible in these types of films. They just go for it. And this one, it has fantasy elements as well as some of the most over-the-top fight sequences you will ever see. Now, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might be seeking this out, as this one has just had which is why we were watching it the other night, a beautiful new transfer struck a year or two back from the folks at 88 Films in the UK. And it is glorious to behold. Has more commentary tracks than a student film production. Highly, highly recommended.
Well, I enjoyed the shit out of that. I mean, at least for me, there are times when you really want those kicks and punches to really land. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I know. And keeping with the grand, over-the-top tradition of many Hong Kong greats, this one does not disappoint. Heads will definitely roll.
And arms, feet, and a torso or 9, too.
So much to love. No? Well, when we return, we'll take a look at a new development in robotic plants? Stick around.
Or were they?
And there is something strange to be sorted out down there.
The term grindhouse has a lot of definitions floating around out there, and many are just, speculation, written by folks who, for the most part, weren't anywhere near 42nd Street, or even worse, not born during its heyday. Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine sources its articles and reviews by and from the folks who were very much there, and in many cases, worked on the very films being discussed on its pages. Each issue boasts 96 pages of wall-to-wall ephemera, and you can pick up a copy at 42ndstreetpete.net and see for yourself why it has the special place in history that it truly does. Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine, available at 42ndstreetpete.net right now.
The show for everybody, but not everybody will like it. TheFuseboxShow.com.
Tragic Journals. It's day 118. Today, I discovered a hidden chamber. Unfortunately, I was already in there. I'm told I'll be walking again soon.
Unsettling.
He needs to find a hobby.
Or an exit.
Oh, and speaking of robotic plants.
The hot wire of science.
Friends, this one comes from the pages of a magazine called Science Robotics.
Uh-oh. Am I going to need my slide rule?
Wouldn't help you in the least, my friend. What we have here in this rather dense article is an examination of the crossroads of robotics with the climbing and navigational abilities of plants.
Oh, hell no. A robotic philodendron? With tentacles, no doubt.
Well, not far off. The Italian Institute of Technology has been experimenting with for a while on the idea of a self-growing robot. That, as they say in the article here, that mimics the adaptative and environment exploration strategies of climbing plants. The robot can navigate voids, anchor itself to vertical supports by twining, and navigate the environment through a behavior-based control inspired by tropism behaviors of plants.
Holy carp.
Now, there is a video that we have posted on our site in the new news section, which I've linked here in the show description, so you can check this thing out. And by the way, please, let us know what you think. Leave us a comment on our Facebook page or the Instagram, or if you want, right there on the site itself. Really be interested in hearing from folks about this one. It really is quite remarkable.
And creepy as fuck.
So, you did there?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this thing is literally growing and extending itself to negotiate all sorts of spaces and curves and plateaus and the like. And as they say in the article, quoting here, it also generates diverse body shapes and mechanical properties as adaptive robotic phenotypic expressions, while negotiating a heterogeneous environment during growth.
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, I copy.
You do?
No.
Well, from what I can kinda understand, is this thing is building its own body parts as it goes to navigate the structures it's coming into contact with. When you see the video, it appears as if this thing is like extruding its own form as it goes along. You know, it's kind of like a spider shooting a web. The article also states that negotiating unpredictable terrains, particularly under real-world conditions, means that setbacks and malfunctions are inevitable. We've demonstrated that Philobot can recover and redirect growth after interruptions to the desired growth directions without a dedicated control for failure detection and task recovery.
Yeah, indestructible plant robot. Show me the damn exit.
Yeah, but wait. Before it becomes the robot horror you're alluding to, Mr. Keynes, this does actually have positive potential in terms of certain tasks. As the researchers say here, they are especially promising for applications in exploring, monitoring, and interacting with unstructured environments, or in the autonomous construction of complex infrastructures.
Yeah, but can it keep the power from going out?
See our last show for that thrilling rant? Well, ultimately, who knows? But traversing into dangerous locations and, creating structures that could be used to aid in the exploration or reclamation of those areas, or even rescuing people, like when a building collapses or there's some natural disaster.
Why do I get the feeling this is going to be the plot of Robot Plant Monster Destroys Altoona?
Taking defamation to where no man has gone before.
The Fusebox Show.
.com.
Alrighty, friends, once more, we delve into the idiocracy that abounds and seems eternally linked to the landscape that is... Now, this time out, a couple of education-themed installments. The first... Well, in retrospect, it doesn't seem all that surprising in view of the recent book banning and outright rewriting of historical facts and just patently disregarding civil rights and, most specifically, free speech.
Now, that last bit, free speech, is the one these idiots claim is being violated when they promote the big lie and try to overthrow democracy. But don't get me started.
No, I won't get you started. Well, maybe just a bit. It has come to light that since Governor Ron the Sandslug has taken office back in 2019, a raft of state educators have seen the proverbial writing on the mildew-covered wall and exited the buildings. That very year, 2019, the University of Florida lured Neil H. Buchanan, a prominent economist and tax law scholar from George Washington University. Now, just 4 years later, after he started at the university, Dr. Buchanan has given up his tenured job and headed north to teach in Toronto.
Good on you.
In a recent column on a legal commentary website, he accused Florida of, quote, open hostility to professors and to higher education more generally. And he's not the only liberal-leaning professor to leave one of Florida's highly regarded public universities. Many are giving up coveted, tenured positions and blaming their departures on the governor and his effort to reshape the higher education system to, of course, fit his conservative principles.
Reshape, you say?
Well, we call it truth fudging round these parts. Now, it's been argued that this recent exodus is really not that severe at all. Sarah D. Lynn, chair-elect of the University of Florida's Faculty Senate, said that little has changed, except that her campus has become the focus of national politics. Most people who leave, she said, do so for reasons that have nothing to do with politics, unless, of course, you include saving their own lives. Quoting here, Florida isn't really a unique scenario when it comes to the politicization of higher education, said Dr. Lynn, who teaches in the Department of Family, Youth, and Community Sciences. It's a beautiful state to live in, and we have amazing students. So we're staying.
And then promptly burst into a mass of tiny tentacles, lashing out in all directions.
Amusing, but probably not. On the other hand, data from several schools show departure rates have sadly ticked upward. At the University of Florida, overall turnover went from 7% in 2021 to 9.3% in 2023, according to figures released by the university. A report by the Faculty Senate at the University of Florida found some departments really hard hit. The School of Arts, which includes, of course, art, music, and dance, quoting here, struggles to hire or retain good faculty and graduate students in the current political climate, said the report, which was issued back in June.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do any emoting when you're in that white hood.
Well, Walter Boot, a tenured psychology professor who had secured millions of dollars in grants for Florida State, is headed to Weill Cornell Medicine in New York, where he will continue developing technology for the elderly. Dr. Boot said he joined Florida State in 2008 and immediately felt at home on the Tallahassee campus. Quoting Dr. Boot here, he says, "This was the place I could see myself spending the rest of my career. Great department, great university." Things began to change, he said, when the governor's administration started to push its education policies. Now, Dr. Boot, who is gay, cited a 2022 law that limits what educators can say about gender and sexuality in elementary schools. It was not technically aimed at universities, but it fueled a frightening environment, he said. Quoting, "The run-up and aftermath of its passage involved hostile rhetoric, painting queer and trans individuals as pedophiles and groomers, rhetoric that came not just from citizens, but from state officials." Dr. Boot recently wrote those comments in the Tallahassee Democrat. He pointed out that soon after the bill's passage, a man threatened to kill gay people on Florida State's campus.
Big surprise.
It's been very difficult from a day-to-day perspective, not feeling comfortable or even safe where I live, Dr. Boot said in an interview. For Dr. Buchanan, the economist and law professor, a final straw was the institution of a review process for tenured faculty, which he viewed as the end of academic freedom. It's not just that the laws are so vague and obviously designed to chill speech that DeSantis doesn't like. It's that they simultaneously took away the benefit of tenured faculty to stand up for what's right, he said. It's tenure in name only at this point. Since Dr. Buchanan writes on tax policy, and it's from a progressive perspective, he said that he felt he could become a target at any time. The Republicans who are running Florida, he said, are squandering one of the state's most important assets by driving out professors who otherwise wouldn't have wanted to leave.
Amen. But, when you're recasting everything in that state based on the personal moral tastes of just one jackass, you're going to have problems.
So it's just no surprise on this exodus that has been occurring over the last few years. And the big losers are, of course, the students who are caught in the middle of this wannabe autocrat's desire to reshape everything to fit his personal moral view of the world. Like this.
Uh-oh.
Yep. How about we just eliminate the entire subject and theretofore department of sociology? Yep, the Republican governor's hand-picked board of education voted to replace the established course on the principles of sociology at its 12 public universities with its own U.S. history curriculum, incorporating an, quote, historically accurate account of America's founding and the horrors of slavery.
Yeah, written by one Whitey KKK cracker.
Shall we recap, friends, for you playing along with a copy of the home edition? Last year, the Sunsham State refused to accept a newly created advanced placement course on Black history, with a spokeswoman for the Florida Department of Education saying it, quote, lacks educational value and it's contrary to Florida law. Governor Ron the Sandslug blasted the class as, quote, woke. And then Florida also rejected a host of math and social studies textbooks for alleged references to prohibited subjects, including, quote, critical race theory, which, by the way, is a legal framework examining systemic racism, which has become a conservative catch-all for politically motivated teaching about race. In August, the state disallowed all AP psychology classes because they violated some of Florida's new restrictive education laws. Although, after days of confusion, Florida's Education Commission then reversed the decision.
Oy. That person should just get a medal and then climb on a plane for parts unknown.
Well, and as we may recall, at one point, the Sandslug threatened to rid Florida of all AP classes across the board, citing frustration with the College Board over courses the governor deemed left-leaning. Now, this removal of sociology as a core course option was evidently first proposed back in November of last year. The Florida Board of Governors opened a 2-week public comment period that month before voting to approve the change this week.
Yeah, this is just another one of those cases where it's an actual sham. Their minds are made up, and this public comment thing is just lip service only.
Well, students at Florida State University, where the Board of Governors meeting was held, of course, gathered to protest the group's decision to replace the sociology requirement. Ann Barrett, a professor of sociology at Florida State University, said the ruling was the latest attack by the Sandslug and his allies in the, quote, culture wars they are waging on campuses. These regulations are devastating for sociology in Florida. Enrollments will plummet. The opportunity to recruit majors will almost disappear. Weakened sociology departments are then ripe for elimination and, ultimately, faculty layoffs. She said in an essay for the National Education Association, the costs to society are higher still. Sociology students learn how to use empirical research and logic to assess the accuracy of claims made about the social world. They also gain skills to critique how power is distributed. In short, they are positioned to be engaged citizens, armed with the power to destabilize right-wing policymakers' agendas. And this is the threat these regulations seek to neutralize. Genesee Lacona, a Florida State student who took the introductory sociology course, said, "It just allows me to look at every other one of my classes with a deeper understanding of why we do what we do as humans."
But you see, that makes you use critical thinking and logic, and we'd prefer you not think about that kind of stuff or, anything, really. Here, have a bucket of paste.
Well, it's not a great sign, but clearly right in step with the governor's plan to whitewash history, science, and way too many cases, civil liberties.
Yeah, the good news is he's not going to be president.
At least not yet.
Oh, you know what? I'm moving to Uranus.
It's yet just another query in the seemingly endless list of queries, a time-encrusted question.
What the fuck, Florida?
And with that, we'll call it a show, friends, but not before thanking our contributors to this edition of the program, Rhett Tillman and Gregory Wilson. Thanks, as always, to the Crown Prince of the Parametric, Milt Keynes, for technical assistance and so forth and so on.
A sincere slice, bro. And, folks, you know, you can really help make this show the Ford GT40. It truly is. And wander over there to our Patreon page and sign up to become a member.
Friends, for far less than the amount you spend a month on your subscription to Dryer Sheet Collectors Magazine, you can get free swag instantly and early access to these here programs.
Yeah, you just go to patreon.com/The Fusebox Show and sign up. We'd so very much appreciate that.
I'll tell you what else we really appreciate. The good folks at Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine for their continued support, and we invite you to check them out at 42ndstreetpete.net. And, of course, thanks to you for pushing play on this edition of Fusebox. We'd be mighty lonely doing this for ourselves.
Aren't we?
Of course not. We have a horde of listener.
Well, yeah, there was that one gal in Altoona.
Yeah.
I think, though, she was looking for a show called Fusebox.
I have been your...
It's a chimney sweep podcast.
I have been your clocking in but thoroughly checked out host, Mark Rose, saying, until our next cartoon.